Hello, everybody. It's Denise Smith. Welcome to All Things Small Business, the show where we talk about entrepreneurship and how to own a business. But tonight we have some very different topics, and can't wait to dive into our great guest that we have for you today. You can go and So what I want you to do right now is go tell a friend, tune in, and join the conversation. Thank you and welcome back. My name is Denise Smith. I'm the host of All Things Small Business, a bi-weekly show on Facebook, YouTube, and any other social media platform that we stream here live from STREAMYARD, talking about all things small business. But tonight I am bringing up my first guest, who's going to talk about a very important subject tonight that's near and dear to my heart. Her name is Meedia Bardenville. She is a trained cardiac ICU nurse, leader, and healthcare professional. She currently leads in the nursing profession as the nursing director of surgical oncology at MedStar Washington Hospital Center. So I'm going to bring up Meedia right now. Hey, Meedia.
Hey, Denise. Thank you so much for having me, sis. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight.
I'm excited to have you. And you're not only just, to me, a healthcare professional in general, but you are someone who is also near and dear to me, my soror and sister, and Howard University alum. This is just healthcare is just such an important issue, topic, and it's a wide open space where we can just go anywhere. But tonight I want to talk about, because I've seen you so open and vocal over the during the pandemic about COVID, and stressing the importance of how to take care of yourself and how to be healthy, and that this disease, if you will, is it's out there, it's deadly, and it can really, it can take you out. It can make you very sick. So can we just start with COVID? Let's talk about that.
All things COVID.
Yeah.
So, thank you for the introduction. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to share your platform, sis. I so appreciate it. And as you alluded to, what I believe and what I've been sharing, quite frankly, as a part of my message and mantra, if you will, the flag and the banner that I've been raising, is to really let people know that the messenger is just as important as the message. And so you and I, as fellow college classmates back in the day, what I realized how important it was when people were asking me stories and asking me questions, and asking me for my story very, very early on in the pandemic, knowing knowing that I worked in an acute care hospital setting. And when we were all, myself included, trying to figure out what the heck is this COVID? What's happening? What do we do? And so I use platforms such as this to really just share my message. As you said, I called them my COVID car chronicles, and I would literally walk to my car after a day in the hospital and share, hey guys, this is really happening. Hey, today we had 10 patients. Now we have 40. Hey, now we have 100. Hey, the ICUs are full. Hey, people are on ventilators. Hey, a friend of mine's father, I was standing with her as he passed away and they took him off the ventilator. And so for me, it then transcended into just the importance of us, particularly all individuals, of course, but as a African-American woman, I found it so important that COVID really highlighted, if you will, the disparities that we already knew existed. But this pandemic, quite frankly, ripped the Band-Aid off again of something that was already trying to somewhat mend itself, not even heal, but kind of mend itself and stand back up on its feet. And now we have this crazy thing called COVID-19 and the coronavirus that completely spiraled our healthcare system into a frenzy, as it still is, and trying to recuperate from even as we speak. And so for me, it's just important for people to know, one, COVID is real. Two, please get vaccinated. Three, people are still dying, unfortunately, from COVID. Four, trust the science. I am a woman of faith, so I unashamedly say that. I absolutely, completely understand people having some distrust and some, giving the healthcare system, if you will, a little bit of a side eye, Denise. But I know that I am a person of faith, and I know where I find trust. But I also do believe in science, and so I think that it's important. And then fifth, I think, if I'm on the fifth thing, is to make sure that you are very conscientious of where you're getting your information from, what sources, because there's so many myths that have been highlighted that we have to continue to debunk. Even today, with the great loss of the amazing, phenomenal leader, mammoth of a person who he was, General Colin Powell.
Yes.
People are like, oh, COVID. But people need to also understand he had an underlying condition. And so we don't know the full story of exactly how he contracted COVID. We don't know. But what I do know is that he also had other comorbidities. And so that's why it's important for people who are healthy, air quotes, to make sure that you are getting vaccinated, because if you then come around someone who is immunocompromised, I recovered from COVID, and I'll wait. I don't know if that's something we'll talk about today, but I did get COVID. Unfortunately, I recovered, I recuperated. I don't have any comorbidities. I just ran. I know you're my fellow runner. I got in another 5 miles before this conversation today, because I knew the importance of being healthy so I can combat and make sure that this vessel that I call my body is healthy to attack anything that might come against it. And so I think it's important for us to know the importance about COVID, what it is, how it's impacting Black and Brown communities disproportionately than our other colleagues and friends.
Yeah, and I can appreciate your advocacy or your will to, just, implore everyone to do what they can, get vaccinated, and really take heed to the dangers out here. Because, I remember when and we all remember when the pandemic first came down, and all you saw on a day-to-day basis was all of these scary stories and extremely high numbers of cases and deaths, and they were just rising and growing. But we're not seeing that now on the television screen, but it's happening, right?
Correct. So what people need to know that right now, I double checked my numbers because I wanted to get a factual information. As of today, there are 700,023 and 205 individuals who have lost their lives. So let's put this in context, Denise. I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania called Easton, Pennsylvania. And Easton has a general population of roughly 60,000 people. So imagine an entire town, city, if you will, actually 700,000 people. That's the entire population of DC. DC is about 750, a little over 700,000, give or take. So imagine every single District of Columbia resident dead. Like let that simmer for a moment to kind of put it in context. Is that okay? Is that
No.
something that you should not be concerned about? Is that something that you should not, as you said, do everything you can to protect yourself, protect your family, protect your friends, protect your community, because this is a public health crisis. It's a pandemic. And so it's not something that's just one or two cases throughout the country. No, this is just the United States. So imagine the nation's capital, every single person right now, this moment in Washington, D.C. being dead. That's not
Mhm.
okay. And there's over 43 million individuals who have contracted COVID. And so what we need to understand, first and foremost, this is much bigger than COVID. Number one, this is about healthcare access. Number two, it's about making sure that your practitioners that you see you as a person, not just as a disease process or diagnosis, that you make
Mhm.
sure that you get your follow-up appointments. I put on my pink because it is, even though, yes, I'm a Delta, but I put on my pink to represent breast cancer awareness. And I really want people to
Mhm.
understand, I had several friends, two personal friends that I personally know and can attest to, that I've seen and still in contact with today, that were diagnosed with breast cancer since the pandemic had started.
Oh,
So I
wow.
want to explore women who, and men, quite frankly, but women who have not gotten those mammograms, who have not
Mhm.
gotten their preventative screenings done, that have not gone to the dentist, that have not done the things that they need to, that will impact your health. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and I know
Mhm.
you are a person, Denise, that advocates and does a lot of stuff for business owners and entrepreneurs. If you don't have your health, and your health is your greatest wealth asset, because no
Mhm.
matter how great and brilliant you are, if you're not physically there to manifest
Mhm.
that business, to do the operations, to bring forth that product or that service to the community and the people that upon which you want to serve, it's
Mhm.
all for naught. And I think more importantly, look at the founder of Apple, one of the most wealthiest men in the world, probably ever, right? And
Mhm.
unfortunately, he passed away from cancer. And so
Mhm.
people need to understand that taking care of yourself and having a good baseline of health and wellness is so imperative. And then for my Black and brown brothers and sisters, we already know the disparities. So that's why my heart aches when we have the hesitancy regarding the vaccine. When
Mhm.
Denise, you have a child, I have a child, all of our kids have to get vaccinated before they go to school because it's a
Yeah.
preventative measure. And
Yeah.
and I'll say this and end is that with Tuskegee, understand the Tuskegee experiment, they were not injecting the people with the virus, they were just withholding treatment. And so when you're
Mhm.
even using those experiments, and I want to be crystal clear as a nurse, we have every right to question, to ask, to be a little cautious, if you
Mhm.
will. But I think it's important that you still find the correct source of information, and that you find the person and individual that you trust that can help guide you in this journey of health and wellness.
Thank you. Thank you. That is such an important point, because even though we can have all the doubts in the world, but make sure you're getting your information from the right place. And
Correct.
also, thank you for bringing this back to how this is a business show, and bringing it full circle. This applies to everyone. And you're right. I am such an advocate for entrepreneurs and small business owners, particularly here in Prince George's County, the absolute best county in the world. um, but I want to also move on to women's health, because you're right. Like you said, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Um, you know, I guess I want to ask, as women, um, do you think that we take care of ourselves enough?
No,
There are health habits that.
no, 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 no.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
It's look, Denise, it's your show, but I have to jump in and just start out with it.
No,
And
please do.
no.
Mhm.
The first thing that I will say, as women, we are very complex creatures, and we are um, a very strange breed that seeks to do all and be all for everyone, and
Mhm.
sometimes not ourselves. And so, the
Mhm.
first thing that I would say is that we're women, we're mothers, we are the backbone of this country, we are the backbone of many businesses,
Say
even
it.
though we may not be the CEO, we may not necessarily have all the C-suite positions that we should have, but we
Mhm.
do know, in the words of Beyonce, who runs the world, girls,
That's
in this
right.
case, women. And so it's
Mhm.
important for us to really make sure that we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Breast cancer is one. Breast cancer is just one small thing, particularly within our community, Black and Brown community in particular. And special shout out, I know you're there in Prince George's County, to Dr. Regina Hampton, and I know the work that she does out at Laurel Community Hospital, and even having her and being an entrepreneur and having her business Cherry Blossom Intimates. But what I want people to realize for Black women, specifically around breast cancer, I had 2 lumps removed out of my breast, Denise. And I don't even know if I told you this. One, my freshman year in college at Howard, I had a lump removed. And then about 6 years, it was benign, thank God. And then I had another lump removed from my other breast about 7 years ago. So my mother passed away from ovarian uterine cancer. My mother was diagnosed shortly after being pregnant with me. And then she passed away right before when I was 4 years old. And I have a family history, an aunt who has breast cancer. And so I am one of those women that have to make sure that they get those mammograms done, that they go to the OBGYN. And I do that faithfully. And I share that because sometimes for us, we continue to go, that we don't take the time for ourselves. And the other thing is not just the physical aspect. And I want to be clear for those of you who know me. You don't have, I'm not saying, Denise ran half marathons and stuff. Well, you don't necessarily have, we're not saying go outside tomorrow and run 5 miles. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is 30 minutes of some type of activity that will allow your heart to work a little bit harder during that 30 minutes. So whether it be yoga, whether you're stretching, whether you're just walking up and down the steps in your house 10 or 15 times, whether it's doing some crunches or push-ups while you're there, whether it's just walking up and down your block 10 or 15 times to get a little exercise is what our body needs. And so we've been so sedentary for this last 19 going on 20 months that we have yet to see, Denise, the impact of us being so sedentary because of quarantine for this past pandemic. And I think for women, particularly, we always, we're mothers, we're cooking, we're cleaning, we're doing all those things in the house at the same time. We're leaders in the business place. I think it's just important for us to make sure that we also take care of our mental health, Denise, that we do those things that allow us to find a place where we can just breathe. And literally just breathe, having intentional breaths throughout the course of the day. I like to run only because for me, it's cathartic. I like being outside. I like feeling the coolness of the air. I like sweating. I like hopping in the shower after a really great run. And I feel so refreshed and I feel like, wow. So whether it's running or swimming or cycling or whatever it is that suits your fancy, I implore everyone to do that because your kids need you, your family needs you, the world needs us. And so we can only do that by being good to ourselves.
Yeah. Let's talk about young girls, because in order to have healthy habits as women, should we start early? I have a 10-year-old daughter and she's already asking me about things that I'm not ready to explain yet. And I know it's coming like any minute, right? So how should we be focused on healthy habits early? And how do we introduce that to them?
And I'll be the first one to say that a healthy lifestyle really is something that you have to be committed to, because it is so easy to just kind of not do it. And honestly, it is something that requires thought. It requires planning. And more importantly, it requires intentionality. And so I think it's important. Your daughter is going to mimic what she sees you do, quite frankly, Denise. She's going to mimic if mommy is sitting there eating chips all day and never eats vegetables. She's going to mimic that. No different than my son.
My daughter, I eat vegetables all the time. She don't want.
Well, part of it too is you never miss what you never had. So the other thing is once we all have a vice. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, none of us, I believe, are are perfect in everything that we're trying to do. But the goal is to let them know and let them understand how important it is to care for their bodies when they start to have a headache or when they start to have a tummy ache, and explain, well, you ate this, and so because of that, this is now why you feel the way you feel. I
Yeah.
think it's important to make sure that they go to physicians and have their doctor, talk to them about, puberty and what to expect and how to care for yourself. It's important for them to understand bullying, specifically around young kids who might be overweight. Our former FLOTUS, our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, was talking about, the Let's Move campaign. And so realizing how important that it is. I believe that the kids should have some level of physical activity. I hate that some of the schools, because of budgetary restraints, have removed gym class. I know back in the day when you and I were there, you had gym 3 times a week, you know what I mean? And you look forward to, changing out of your uniform or your school clothes and putting on the shorts and the t-shirt and playing kickball and running laps around the track or whatever it is. And so I think from a societal standpoint, I think they let us down. I think we're trying to do a lot better now. But I think she's going to mimic, and our young people are going to mimic what they see us as their parent do.
And what about teaching them, as they get older and they develop more, but before they become adults, do you think that it's important to start letting them know, to start giving their own self exams like they tell us as women when we're going to the doctor?
Well, I think it's important that they know that as their body changes, that they absolutely should understand, hey, you are now developing breasts, you are now developing other genital areas. And so this is how you need to check them, even our young boys, making sure you're checking. I know we're on Facebook Live, but it's a medical term, checking, your scrotal areas or different things like that, just to make sure, letting them know if as they start to go through the female change and understanding what does that mean. And if they do feel anything and how they should start checking, because as soon as you start, menstruating is when you really should be making sure that you're checking yourself as well. But as being the mother, I think it's important for her, to see her and say, this is why mommy does this. Mommy wants to be safe. So as you get a little bit older, and this is what you will need to do because we value your health. And I think it's important to bring it back to also what we put in our body also impacts our overall health and wellness as well.
And going back to, because you mentioned earlier health disparities, how can we make a shift so that we're not the ones, because we're the first ones to get everything and the last ones to get the services, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm talking about African Americans. How do we change that?
The old saying that you probably heard back in the day when white America gets a cold, African Americans get the flu. And so, what I would say to that is, one, it's about health literacy, Denise. It's also about health and wellness and access. It's also about social economic status. It's also, that is a conversation you and I can be on here for about 5 hours, just literally talking about the disparities that are occurring within our African American communities.
Yeah.
I know you're in Prince George's County, but specifically even in the District of Columbia, the bordering counties the bordering wards of PG County, Ward 7 and 8, there's 3 grocery stores, ridiculous, and a predominantly Black, lower income environment. Comparative, that is keyword, because everything in DC is changing and getting gentrified, but comparative to other areas here in DC, even I live in Ward 5, there's literally 5 grocery stores within 3 miles of my house, 5 of them.
Wow.
And so you talk about going into Ward 7 and 8. Why are there only 3 grocery stores in Ward 7 and 8 that has over 100,000+ individuals? That's mind-boggling. And so what I think, to answer your question specifically, is that people like you, myself, when we know that these communities are happening, we have to make sure that we have policies that are ensuring, as they're building up things, that they are the people that are developing those areas, that they also ensure that they are putting fresh and good quality food, because if not, grandma and grandpa and all of them are going to go right down to the local corner store and get the chips and the high the pickles and the little containers that are very salty and all the unhealthy drinks and stuff, because they're not going to have access to the fruits and the vegetables and the fresh meats and the fish, because they're going there. They're going only to the carry out for dinner. They're only going to get the pizza spot or the Chinese food carry out place that is there. And so I think it's important for us to make sure that happens, that we have equity in those areas so that they still have access to those people that are the politicians and the other folks that are in those areas. Really have to advocate for health and wellness, because it doesn't matter all the development that you do if your citizenship around you are dying and they're sick and ill. You're not even going to have a population of people who are going to even be able to be employed. And so all
Right.
of these things, in my personal opinion, when you talk about developing community, when you talk about businesses, when you talk about the help, when you talk about growing those things in a community, it all starts for me personally with that Venn diagram. In the middle is how healthy and well is your community. What is it? All that's connected to the education, it's connected to the job access, it's connected. Everything is interconnected. And so I think we have to make sure healthcare professionals like myself are also going and sharing and having those health fairs and having those screenings and doing different things so people are able to get the treatment and care that they need and deserve.
Meedia, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. You are such a wealth of knowledge and information about how we need to take care of ourselves. I want to thank you so much for coming on and joining me. Always good to see you. Can't wait to see you in person someday soon.
Good to see you.
Yes. Thank you so much. You know, I'm definitely going to have you back on sometime soon, because we need to continue conversations like this all the time.
Absolutely. Denise, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to share on your platform tonight. And for those that are listening and watching, please take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, for your family, and just think about all those wonderful things that you have to give. But if you're not here, we won't be able to see those things manifest. So be well and live on and full of purpose. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. That's right. Be well and live full of purpose. Yep. All right. Thanks so much, Meedia.
Take care.
All right. You too. Wow. Okay. So, you know, health is so important, and that's why I brought her on here. I knew that she was going to lay down the law and give a word in the medical field. But now my next guest, I'm so excited to have this gentleman on. I met him in 2018, and I just didn't know how great this man is. So my next guest is Larry Davis. He is an accomplished trainer, with strategic planning experience, solid leadership skills. He's a doctor. He holds a PhD of education and a master's of education and a bachelor's degree in international business. And I really want to just say why I even brought him on here, right? This young man has created the first. I just lost it, Larry. I just lost it. He created the first African-American curriculum in the public school system in Vancouver, Canada. And he lives right here in Prince George's County. Look, who knew we got somebody this smart as this? I like to call him, I love nerds, right? I love nerds, right? And he's such a lovable nerd. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on Larry Davis, and he's going to talk to us about this wonderful program that he created, and among other things. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Denise, how are you? It's great to see you.
You too. you man, you know, when you called me, I think I called you one day just to check up on you. And you told me that all of this had happened. You had created this program, and it had been like, what, 3 years since I think it was 2021 that we first spoke, since 2018. And
exactly.
I was so excited. I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I want to just talk to you about this and some of the other things that you've been working on. The first African-American curriculum in a public school system. It's not here in the United States. But you know, it's in Canada. Tell us about that, please.
Well, so a few years ago, there was a gentleman that I met in Vancouver, British Columbia. His name is Yassine Misago, and he's originally from Uganda. And so he has been trying to really preserve the history of Blacks in British Columbia. And so we began talking. And he discovered that I was very aware of the presence of African Americans who had migrated to British Columbia. And so he says, you know what, Professor Davis, we should maybe collaborate. And so I asked the young man, well, how can I assist you? He said, well, first of all, I needed a proposal for developing Black history. And so I decided, well, I'll build a proposal. And so I did that, and I submitted it to the team in British Columbia. And by the way, his organization is called the African Descent Society of BC, and I'm on the board of directors.
You said of DC?
Of BC, of British
Oh,
Columbia.
BC, British Columbia. Okay.
Right. It's called, the organization is the African Descent Society of British Columbia.
Okay.
And so I submitted the proposal to him. He actually flew to Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, and presented the idea before the federal government and the Congressional Black Caucus there. And they said, so you're seeing, this is a fantastic idea. And they asked the question, do you have a curriculum? And at the time he didn't. So he went back home to British Columbia and called me. He says, Professor Davis, we need a curriculum. And I said, we? I said, what do you mean we?
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, he was very insistent that we do this. And I thought to myself, well, listen, I have a full-time career, and I know that building a curriculum is a lot of work. And so I said to him, I said, you see, this is what you are going to need to do. I said, first of all, you're going to need a number of experts in Canadian history, more specifically Black Canadian history. I said, secondly, you're probably going to need a number of instructional systems designers to build the course. And thirdly, you're going to have to create working groups, which meet on a regular basis, maybe twice a week or so, to build out the course. And he says, well, Professor Davis, I don't have anything. So again, we went back and forth for several months. And I thought to myself, wow, there is a gap in the educational system there. And there isn't a course specifically for folks of African descent. British Columbia does have a course for Asian Canadians and also First Nations or the Native population. And so I thought to myself, this is a heavy lift. But nonetheless, I decided to take the lead. And over a 6 to 8 month period, I actually built out the course for it and submitted it to the Vancouver public school system. And the school system there looked at the course, critically. They made sure that we dotted all I's and crossed all T's. And after that, then the Ministry of Education for the province took a look at it. And lo and behold, 6 months later, they decided that this is something that they needed in the public school system. And so it was unanimously approved by Vancouver school system and endorsed by the British Columbia Minister of Education. And so as of September of this year, it has been implemented into the public school system in British Columbia. This is the first time ever in Western Canada that they've had a course, and it's called the African Descent course of British Columbia. And what I did, Denise, with this course is I started broad first. I basically started in Africa, talking about African history. I narrowed it to Blacks coming to Canada in the 1600s, and then I specifically went to British Columbia. And with the British Columbia aspect of it, I mapped African Americans migrating out of San Francisco in the 1850s into British Columbia. And those Blacks went there specifically because of the Dred Scott decision. And Dred Scott was March of 1857, which basically said that if you're a Black person born in America, you'll never be a citizen. And so you had a huge or sizable population of professional Blacks in California in the 1840s, 1850s. And collectively, this Black population was worth $5-6 million, but their civil rights had been denied. And so really they had to figure out, well, what do we do? And so they got an offer to come to British Columbia, and they really transformed the province.
Wow. I just think that this is such an amazing one idea, because we don't have that here, right? we don't have that here, but obviously it's important somewhere, right?
Right.
Because how important is it that we tell our story?
It's extremely important. And Denise, in many ways, what this course is the mapping of African American transnational history. And what I mean by that, the foundation of Black culture in British Columbia were those 800 African American families that left San Francisco and decided to take up roots there. And when you look at what they were able to obtain, in it really is massive. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons, I'll tell you this, why British Columbia now has remained a part of Canada is because of the legacy of Mifflin Gibbs, who was an African American, originally from Philadelphia, goes to California, becomes very successful in California, but decides, because of Dred Scott, leaves San Francisco and ends up in British Columbia, Canada. He goes on to become the first city council of Victoria. He serves as the acting mayor of that city, and he's a member of the Yale Committee, which was a group of 26 delegates that actually met in Yale, BC, that worked out the terms and conditions for bringing BC into Confederation to Canada. And so you have many examples of these Blacks who were from the U.S., who go to Canada and really make all types of history. And so what I wanted to do is to tell that story. And so now it has been implemented. And so I can say I am proud and honored that the Canadians felt that there was a gap in the educational system. And I'm not going to lie, Denise, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to get that done. But at least now it's in the public school system. And so young people now will actually see themselves in the pages of history.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for you. I was so elated when you first told me about it. And so have you been able to see how it's going?
You know what? My point of contact with the executive director of the African Descent Society of British Columbia, we talk all the time. And I can tell you this, is that when it was first approved, I mean, it was just the talk of the town. And so what I hope to do once COVID actually dies down, I'll get a chance to go up and sit in some of the classes. But I can tell you now that the young people, students, as well as administrators, they are very, very, very excited about this course. I mean, it's think about this, Denise. I mean, this has never been done before in Western Canada. Right. It's just something that has not been done, and so
it hasn't been done anywhere, let alone Canada. Right? It hasn't been done anywhere.
Well,
we got trendsetters right here in Prince George's County.
Right. Well, I can tell you this: once the Vancouver's public school system approved the course, and as I mentioned to you before, they unanimously approved the course. I also received calls from the other neighboring province of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And basically, they possibly in the future, I know for sure, Saskatchewan, they want to actually kind of implement a program like this too, because, and I'll tell you why. 2015 to 2024 is the International Decade of People of African Descent globally. And so this would be an outstanding time to get something like this course into the public school system. Mm-hmm. And so again, I feel honored that the folks in British Columbia and other parts of Canada felt that that I could add to this, or I could use my skills maybe to help their public school system. So I just feel very honored.
Mm-hmm. And you've got some other exciting things going on, right? Let's talk about that.
Right. So I am a delegate with the Constituency for Africa, and this organization was founded in 1990 by Melvin Foote, and it really is an advocacy for all things Africa. And again, the Constituency for Africa really is the leading, agency which provides recommendations for how the U.S. Is going to engage the African continent. So the president of the organization, Melvin Foote, invited me to meet with Jessica Davis-Ba, who is a senior advisor on Africa in the Office of Vice President Harris. and in the executive office of President Biden. We had an opportunity to meet with her. Now, we actually did it via Skype, because of COVID, but we met and we were able to provide her with recommendations in terms of how the U.S. should engage the African continent moving forward. And so I was a part of this delegation. I mean, you had heavy hitters, people who were experts in security, IT, health related issues, as you spoke about earlier tonight. The son of Marcus Garvey was a part of this. And again, yours truly, as I said earlier, was also a part of this. As a matter of fact, now that I am one of the delegates with the Constituency for Africa, we're going to have ongoing dialogue with the White House and specialists who are Africa friendly, who are toward improving relationships between the United States and the African continent. And again, I felt honored because this is the highest office in the land, and I get to present how many. I submitted 10 recommendations to the White House, and one of them in particular, I recommended that we should have strategies to increase the representation of African Americans in the Foreign Service, and also in the Peace Corps. I think this is very, very important because most people don't know this, and I want to share this with you, Denise. When people think about the Peace Corps, they think about President Kennedy and Sergeant Shriver, who was the brother-in-law of President Kennedy. People tend not to think of Dr. James Robinson. Dr. James Robinson was the founder of Operations Crossroad Africa. And he founded it in 1958. And Operations Crossroad Africa was a progenitor of the Peace Corps. So without, the development of Operation Crossroad Africa in 1958, you would have no Peace Corps, which emerges in 1961 or so. And so that was very, very important.
Man, you just moving on and doing big things. And I don't suppose there's not a whole lot that you can talk about given the high level of security that being involved with that, right?
The meeting that we had, as a matter of fact, there was I'll put it to you this way. It was a 4-day. It was called the Ron Brown African Affairs Series. Some of it was open to the public. The particular meeting that I attended was invitation only, and my invitation was non-transferable, if you know what I mean. Now, for those of us who participated in this endeavor, we had to, of course, submit a bio to the White House because, of course, I mean, it's the White House. And so, but the issues that we discussed is really, I think, creative ways that the U.S. can engage the African continent in the 21st century. And so I think by the end of the year, Vice President Harris and President Biden will actually put out how they're going to move forward. And I think that some of the recommendations that we provided will be presented to the public.
And you said that you submitted 10 recommendations.
Recommendations, yes, ma'am.
And has the decision been made on those recommendations? Which ones they're gonna heed to?
Well, what's going to happen is a white paper has been written, and there's an addendum showing all of our recommendations. And so it's from my understanding, I think that that the folks in the White House will actually look at what we presented and they'll go from there. But again, I'm just thrilled that I was asked to participate in something.
Of course.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, who wouldn't be? So where do you go from here? I mean, even on this project.
Well, I can tell you this. Again, I am still a part of the delegation. We're going to be meeting with a number of other, I don't want to call them local, but I would just call them international figures, folks who you would probably know that will meet. And we will continue this conversation moving forward. because there's a lot of work to do. A lot of people really don't know about Africa, and so again, the constituency for Africa. I mean, it really wants to really kind of educate the world about what the African continent is and why we, more specifically African Americans, should be engaged. In presenting the African continent in a positive way, in a more realistic way. And so that's what we're going to continue to do.
Okay. Larry Davis, I'm so honored to call you my friend.
Denise, you're much too kind to me. But I've got to say this, and to speak about what I was able to, to contribute to Western Canada. I would say that the most important thing for me was ensuring that young people, as I said before, can see themselves, as actors on the world stage. I mean, think about this. Prior to this course, there was nothing in the public school system year-round that talked about the history and the contributions of people of African descent in British Columbia. As I said, there was a course for Asian Canadians, Asian British Columbians, First Nations, which is a native population, but there was nothing for Blacks who played a very, very instrumental role in the development of this province. And so now, again, it's in the public school system, and so we're going to just build on it.
Okay. This is such an important discussion, and it's so important to spread that message to me all over the world, let alone our country here. I'm going to have you come back on and talk during Black History Month. I mean, it's so salient. I mean, this is really important work that you're doing. So I'm proud of you. I'm honored to know you, and I'm really thankful that we have people like you, one, that live here in Prince George's County, and two, that are just doing this kind of work. So
right. And let me just say this to you too, and it's important, although this is in Canada, African American transnational history is massive, beyond arts, sports and entertainment. We've literally done everything. I mean, I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. Most people don't realize that Colonel John Charles Robinson, an African American, actually was one of the founders of Ethiopian Airlines. Ethiopian Airlines is the best airlines on the African continent. Thurgood Marshall wrote the Kenyan Constitution. Judge Nathan Jones actually helped South Africans write their new constitution in 1994. And those are just three examples of Black Americans actually working on the world scene. I mean, there's just a plethora of history out there in terms of what we have done in the past and what we're doing now.
Yeah. Obviously, I know it. There's nothing that's happening in this world that African Americans has not contributed to. Wouldn't you say?
I would absolutely, and like I say, and that's one of the things that I really want to focus on, and to ensure people have a better understanding of our contributions. And I'm happy we now have institutions like the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture, because it really highlights our long history of contributions to the nation and to the globe.
Yeah, I love that place. Larry, thank you so much for all that you do. And I wish you much success. And I can't wait to have you back again in February.
Oh, okay.
So we can talk more about this and see where the program, if there's going to be any kind of expansion or anything.
Yeah. I think that I am very optimistic about the course in British Columbia. I definitely want to see the evaluations within the next 6 months or so, and like I say, I'm in constant contact with the folks up in British Columbia, and they're thoroughly excited. So, and again, I'm glad that I could be a part of it and to use my skills to help.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for coming on tonight. I know that it took us a minute, but I'm so glad that you were here and that you can speak to the people that will come to my page and learn some things, because I know people in high places. So, so thank you so much again. And listen, we'll have you back on very soon.
All right. Appreciate it, Denise. Thank you so much as well.
All right. All right.
You take care now.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye.
I didn't mean to take myself out of there. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank both of my guests. They were phenomenal guests, weren't they? Meedia Bardenil and Larry Davis, two really great people that are just a wealth of knowledge in their own right and in their own subject matters. I'm so happy that they were able to join me today. This is All Things Small Business. I'm Denise Smith, the host, and I just want to thank you for tuning in. And as I get more, we get back into the business of talking business, I'm going to let you all know. So just be on the lookout. And thank you again for tuning in. And I will see you next time. Also, I just want to say, make sure you follow me, to keep up with this show and more. You can follow me at Vote Denise Smith on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks again. All right. Good night.